What is up, Saints fans? It's Chris Ozoglu. I'm back in a little bit of a new format. I know I said earlier this year I was done making Saints content. I kind of felt pretty strongly about that, and turns out I was just lying to everyone. So we're going to hit up with a new format. It's going to be called Lights, Camara, Action, going to primarily talk about the New Orleans Saints, just pretty much doing what we did in the past with the Straight Up Saints podcast. But now we're going to do a little bit of a twist. We're going to add a little bit of movie content when I deem it necessary. It's not going to always be brought up, especially with training camp finally here. Going to focus on the Saints for this particular first episode. But definitely a lot I want to talk about. And I think for the New Orleans Saints, this is an offseason where us fans have had a little bit of reason to be hopeful and think that this team could be something special, or at least something fun when it comes to competing for an NFC South title. So before I get into my training camp thoughts, I just want to say thank you guys for kind messages you sent on social media earlier today when we kind of launched this. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. I would greatly appreciate it. Just another way for me to interact with you guys. And as far as content goes, I'll mention it before I log off here, but gonna kind of see what you guys want. Do you guys want more live streams? Do you want late night talk, episodes and maybe streams there where you guys get to interact and leave your thoughts, similar to what we did before? Do you guys want entirely new content where we kind of break it up and split both subjects that I talked about, Saints and movies? So we'll see what kind of happens. I think I'm gonna be pretty lenient in terms of where we go. I kind of want you guys to be the engine for this, but we'll see what happens. So let's jump into some Saints content here. Training camp opened up on this Wednesday, July 29th, and all the optimism going into today almost got kind of like sucked out of the room with the Bryan Bresee news. So it comes out today that Bryan Bresee ends up going down with an injury. And look, not ideal. Not ideal. According to NFL Network's Ian Rappaport and Mike Garafolo, it's a torn ACL for Bryan Bresee, would knock him out for the rest of the season. And, look, there's two factors here for why this is such a frustrating injury. The first part being, it's day one of training camp. You feel pretty good about this player, specifically as an interior pass rusher. And to lose him before the season even starts, it's kind of gut-wrenching. It's the reason why practices like this, you just pray that everyone gets through it safely. And if there's any rust that you got to knock off, you think, all right, figure it out in September, better than losing guys in July and August. That's the first one. The second part of it, and I think this is, a factor that I couldn't help but think about it when this injury news gets announced. We have Bryan Bresee, entering year 4, and it's kind of a de facto contract year. I know his 5th-year option got picked up, so he'll be on the roster, or at least should be for 2027. But, I look at Bryan Bresee's situation. I think this is a guy that would have benefited tremendously from being on the field and healthy for the Saints this upcoming season. So the fact that he's not is quite brutal. And we'll see what happens with his recovery process. Maybe he's back in 2027 and being an impact player. But I think for the Saints, there's two kind of lenses you can look through this. If you want to look at through the pessimistic kind of view, let's be honest, losing a starting defensive lineman on the first day of practice, it freaking sucks. I think there's no way to kind of sugarcoat that. And I think Bryan Bresee is your best interior pass rusher that the Saints got. So how do you replace him? Maybe a Kristen Miller, a rookie from Georgia, steps up, although I don't view him as the same type of player. Maybe Christian Boyd finally gets things going at this point in his career. Maybe Nathan Shepard in a rotational role can get things going. Maybe John Ridgeway can be a valuable asset to the defensive line. But those are all question marks. The flip side, and I think this is the lens that I'm choosing to look through it because it is July 29th, and I swear to you guys, I will not be sitting here being pessimistic on July 29th because I'll talk about it in about a couple of minutes. I have very high hopes for the Saints team this year. I don't think Bryan Bresee is one of those guys where if he goes down, you go, oh, shit, the season's over. There are a couple players on the Saints, and I don't even think I have to name those players because you guys should know, in my opinion, which ones they are, because they play those important positions that if they go down, the ship's probably going down with them to some degree. So I don't view Bryan Bresee as a guy where he gets hurt and all of a sudden I'm like, well, if I had the Saints at 9 wins, now I drop him to 6 wins. Or if I had the Saints at 8 wins, now I'm dropping him to 5 wins. I don't view him as that type of player. And that's not a knock on Bryan Bresee. That's just like the realistic approach to it. So I'm kind of battling the two, right? It is a frustrating injury for the Saints on day one of camp. There's so much excitement in the building, so much excitement in the fan base, and then bam, Bryan Bresee is out for the year. So on that aspect of it, it stinks. On the flip side, I think the Saints will be able to navigate the season regardless of this injury. Doesn't mean it doesn't hurt because you lose your best interior pass rusher. But I think the Saints as a whole, if you're talking about guys you can't afford to lose, I don't know if I would say Bryan Bresee is in that group. Now, the second thing I want to talk about, Chris Olave, participated a little bit, didn't participate in the team drills, it looks like. His contract situation, I think, is so fascinating because I think, look, he's coming off the best season of his career. I think Chris Olave has solidified the fact that when healthy, he is a damn good player. He's fun to watch. There is a clear connection between him and Tyler Shuck. So I think that is obviously something that if you're the Saints, you don't want to lose that right now. At this point in both players' careers, you want to keep that train moving. So the Saints have to figure out a little bit of a balance of you want to pay this guy, but you also want to keep yourself financially secure. The issue is this. The wide receiver market is through the roof. So I had to pull this up, and I'll pull this up on my phone. Next time around, and as we get back into me controlling what goes on for this page, I'll have more graphics to pull up, so I apologize right now that I don't have this one up. But the wide receiver market is awfully expensive. Awfully expensive. Obviously, he's not going to touch JSN money. He's not going to touch Jamar Chase money. But Drake London makes $35 million a year. I'm sorry, I don't think you can definitively tell me objectively Drake London's better than Olave. I think there'll be somewhat of a debate. Garrett Wilson makes 32.5. I'm sorry, there's a little bit of a debate there. DK Metcalf makes 33 mil. I'm taking Olave over DK Metcalf, and I'm not even thinking twice about it. I'm taking it, saying thank you, and I'm carrying on with my day, and I'll be grateful that I have him over DK on Sundays. That would just be my take. He's making 33 a year, okay? You got A.J. Brown making 32. Brandon Ayuk, who I don't think we're ever going to see him on a damn football field ever again, was making 30 mil before this whole debacle. Nico Collins, 30 mil. Terry McLaurin, just under 30 mil. So Chris Olave, who is entering his prime, if you're his agent, you're like, yeah, I want that 30 mil. And how can you argue against it? If you're the Saints, though, this is a player with a concussion history. Unfortunately, the blood clots that ended what was a second-team All-Pro season for him. He was, outstanding for the Saints last year. It's a little bit of a concern. So I think if you're the Saints, can you find a way where if Olave plays, he's going to be paid as one of the top 7, top 8 wide receivers in the NFL, but leave yourself a little bit of leeway in the event that there is an injury, in the event that there is a health-related concern for Chris Olave. So, I'm not exactly, bringing up the greatest take of all time here. I think this is kind of where teams and where the fan base is kind of leaned towards. He deserves to get paid. I think the Saints, it would be a benefit to them to get him paid. But you got to do it responsibly, and we'll see if they can kind of thread that needle of the two. So that's just my thoughts on the Chris Olave situation. I'm not going to teeter on it. I want him to be on the Saints long term. Maybe a year and a half ago, I was probably saying, maybe Olave's not the guy. If you get a good trade offer, take it. And that was fucking stupid of me. So, just going to put it blunt there. That was just so dumb of me to judge a receiver without a proper quarterback room. And now I feel like he does have a better quarterback, and now you see the results. So we'll see where the Saints go from there, but I am feeling pretty good about that situation. I think they'll get it done. Now, before I wrap things up, just want to say, with training camp starting, I think it's so easy to get kind of lost in the hype, start to be really optimistic, and there's going to be some people telling you, pump the brakes, don't do it, and you know what? Those people might be right, but I'm not going to be one of those people to tell you that you should pump the brakes. I am by nature a fan. I know I like to cover this team and try to be professional about it, but at my core, I am a fan of the Saints. So when I see posts like this, and it's Tyler Shuck, with Devon Vele, with Olave, with Jordan Tyson, and they're on the sideline, and you kind of see their jerseys all laid out, I can't help but be optimistic. I can't help but be excited about this team. And I'll kind of leave my training camp day one rant with this. If you're supposed to go bold, you're supposed to be optimistic about this team. I feel like right now, on July 29th, as things stand, I feel like this Saints team could be a playoff team. Do I expect them to be a juggernaut? Absolutely not. Do I expect them to win 11-plus games? No. But do I expect them to compete in NFC South that is for the taking, that the Bucs have their issues to figure out? The Panthers, we talk about Bryan Bresee getting hurt. The Panthers have lost 3 players already over the last week and a half. How are they going to look? And I also have quarterback questions for them. And then the Falcons. That's it. That was my assessment on them. So I think the NFC South is gettable, and I think the Saints are trending in the right direction. How hard in that direction are they trending? We're going to find out when the season starts. But you know what? I believe I hold the right to get excited about the Saints team and say, hey, if everything breaks for them, why can't they win 9, maybe 10 games, but I'm going to go 9. And why can't that win the division when 9 wins has been enough for the division 3 out of the last 4 years, I believe, and 2 out of the last 4 years has been under 500. So if someone tells you it's not enough to win the division, they're lying. So last thing, before I leave you guys, again, I mentioned at the top, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. I really, really would appreciate it from you guys. You guys have meant a lot with all your support over the years. So trying to kind of do this solo, and hopefully you guys can kind of follow me through this journey. And also, if you have any thoughts, any suggestions about what you want to see, please put in the comment section below. Do you want some live streams? Would you rather we do daily recaps? Would you rather short form content? Put it down and I'll get to you. But overall, this has been the first episode of Lights Camera Action, and we'll be back pretty soon